Call to order at 4:12. Good with votes, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just need this one. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Wendy, can I have a motion to approve the attached minutes from the March 30th, 2022 meeting? Motion to approve the minutes. I will second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's passed.
Is that what thing? That looks right.
All right.
I haven't figured out what it did.
All right. Our next order of business is the building committee website updates. I can take that. Okay.
So in front of you here is a cost estimate overview. We were hoping to kind of update the cost page of our website because we are getting a lot of questions about what we're doing with escalation and project cost estimates and all of these. So Devin and I sat and thought about the best way to kind of present this, and we thought it would be good to show the history of how we've kind of moved through it. So we have the pre-referendum cost estimate, then we move to post-referendum cost estimate number 1, enhanced schematic design, and give a little bit of a narrative about where that came in, how we brought it down. This is where we are at that point in time. And then we wanted to link to the meeting video for when Meg did a great job kind of explaining that whole process, the VE list review, the approval, links to the agenda and minutes for those meetings. So just giving people all the information they need right up front, and they can see that. And then doing the same thing, sorry. Yeah,
we'll stand high.
Yeah, really
hard. 95.
Like I hit free.
Okay,
she might pass out. Have my water. We'll be good. Doing the same thing at the design development stage, which is on the agenda for approval tonight. So again, the same process. Upon completion of that, we did a subsequent cost estimate. This is where we came out. This is where we are, just to show the whole process and that we are still, we've worked very hard to stay within budget. So it'll have the VE lists that are included in the agenda and minutes, the video, because I think you can put the information on there, but you also need to give context. So I think having that video, the meeting video will help. And I think that's where we are. Oh, and then saying that we're going to do one more round of this before the project goes out to bid after the construction documents. So stay tuned for that, basically. So I think this will be a good way to kind of explain where we were before referendum, which is what's currently on the website, and then what we've done now, because you see it in the newspaper, you hear it on the news, inflation, escalation, cost of goods. This will be the true story about how we're dealing with that.
And you'll have something to point people to when you get those questions.
Exactly.
That's great.
I can just edit this down a little bit for the Q&A.
Absolutely.
Which I can see how you can do that.
Do you think we need just a statement at the beginning? Because I think these numbers, everyone knows 135.
Yes.
And so maybe at the very top, we say, as a reminder, the high school project itself is this amount. The 900 wing/locker rooms is this amount.
Yeah.
Just because when I look at the 124 or the 115, I'm like, it's 135.
Right, right. And the difference is we're talking construction costs. Right. So I think we need to break that out a little bit here.
Yeah. Because really that's what all of this is, right? The escalation, the changes, like it's all based on hard cost construction. It's not even really labor, it's mostly material and availability and things like that. It's just the market changes. I was wondering if it made sense, but Kathy, that's a great point, because all of us are so focused on these numbers, we really haven't talked about everything else that plays into that. There, what does play into that is like the owner contingencies and things like that that are that are there, but not to be utilized for this, for this process. Does it make sense to also, maybe include a one sentence statement or something that we've onboarded, a commissioning agent, all of these different consultants that are playing into essentially creating the most economical, cost-effective project. I don't know, something to that effect, right? So there, code reviews, like all of those things that we're doing now should equate to cost savings in catching things that might come up later, right? With the idea of avoiding change orders and all of those things while we're doing those reviews and making sure the documentation is solid. I don't know if it makes sense or not in this. I was just kind of trying to think because that process, you know, we are upfront investing upfront on consultants,
yeah,
but they are playing a key role in creating a project that's.
I think a sentence or two about
I'll
that
give it
and why it's
something,
important.
Yeah.
And then we also do have like our team page on the website where we do cross-reference too, so people can see the full team.
You know, I think what you do for communication, right, can two things more. One is, what's the general thing? What's a contingency fund? Believe it or not, people, do we tap into that because of inflation, hard to get materials, or do we cut things out because they're coming up, which we didn't anticipate? Because when these budgets get passed, we'd anticipate that we'd be going through this inflation and cost of materials. And so I think we need kind of a general, that's what the Q&A can do. And then have, for transparency, bring up all these other things. So people want to dig a little deeper, so you don't get the nonsense calls and saying, oh, what about this? Why, I didn't see that in original, because you're going to get nitpickers. And you don't want to deal with that every day, cat. Stuff in the office to do, you know, it's, believe it or not, it'll pop up. You know, you got this thing passed. Can we stay within the budget? What's a contingency fund for? And how are we saving money by using these specialists? And if that's going to help out, you know, we should just kind of lay that out. If you want more detail, because you can put that big budget sheet time frame in there. It's nothing wrong using it as reference material. So people who like to read that stuff, let them read it. But if you just explain to the general, you know, to the average citizen here, they'll say, okay, I just want to make sure that you know, you don't have to go back and ask for more money. That's always the biggest fear in these projects. I ran in 2 or 3 districts where they, holy cow, they were really off like $5–10 million in contingency. So I think we should nip that right up front, saying, no, we're staying with this budget. We're going to have to cut areas. Like you brought up to me, Kat, it's not going to affect the quality of the education in the building or the programming. You know, so where you're cutting a corner might not even cutting a corner, but reevaluating based upon the stress of the cost. Better nip it now than explain it and deal with it later.
I think the question we're trying to, or at least that we want to know, is we cannot spend any more than what we were given. Like you still get the feeling that people think we're somehow going to go over here and grab money from something and take it. We can't do that.
Yeah, you just have to reiterate that.
Yeah.
This is the budget. Here's the reimbursement. Has a reimbursement from the state finally come back what that number is?
Session ends next week, and we have been obviously reaching out to our legislators as much as possible. They seem very positive that we will be made whole. So we are hoping that.
Well,
they reassured us.
Yeah.
When we get, so you think by next, because that should be in the newsletter and all the other.
Yeah. Session ends on May 4th.
Should we wait till that result comes out before we push anything else? Because that's a big question in town.
That's a huge question in town.
In the media, it's
What about choice?
I mean, it's beyond, because it's now the thing with a lot of the school districts.
well, sure, we're not the only one, yeah. Right.
I think we should have an answer before the newsletter. I think that would be a huge thing.
What happens? Do we get another letter? Do we know? I'm just like, do we have something?
Yeah, what's the official?
I would imagine it would
Yeah,
be.
we would.
Get some letter.
We would definitely get a communication, an official communication.
Right.
I'm just thinking,
Can we
you
do
want to see it.
Do
Maybe,
we
I mean,
want
I
to
show it
reference
to like,
choice or not?
They want us to
You
do
know.
that.
yeah.
We want to be
Yeah,
prepared
we're
to
just
reference choice, the choice bonus.
I mean, I think that's really a town, like we should talk to the town about how they want to handle that.
Yeah.
Because I do think, you know, it would be helpful when we're looking at, you know, value engineering to just say, you know, that we will get this additional reimbursement.
Right.
And this is a conservative estimate for
Right.
open choice. We probably will get much more.
Right.
Just by looking at the numbers and pushing them forward.
Yeah.
But all kinds of things can happen. So I think we're going to take a really conservative approach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To look at
Are
that.
any of the federal dollars going to be able to use for research? That's completely out. Or is that going to you, Kathleen, directly that you could use the funds, the federal funds?
Yeah, I mean, being a Farmington, you know, we didn't get a lot of, you know, that funding where other districts, you know, and again, it's based on, you know, an equity formula,
Yeah,
how much we get, but,
that won't affect at all the project. Yeah. There's
no, and you know, there's certain things that are allowable. Now, if there's something at the state level or something that comes out later on during the project, I mean, there might be opportunities. There's definitely opportunities when it comes to energy efficiency, you know, all of that. So we will get more reimbursement, but you know, some of that you really don't know until the project closes out. But with open choice, I think we have a good indication, right?
Right. But say we're uncovering every rock or something like that. Yeah.
Are you seeing any funding for, you know, air circulation, COVID money, it's earmarked for new projects?
Not yet,
And then
no.
you see anything.
No.
I've been trying to look for it too. Some districts, other states are getting money for refurbishing their buildings.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that taken by the state, federal?
So it not yet. So, but we do think that it's coming out, that OSCGR is going to be actually making it, the state's going to make it mandatory in all schools that certain air quality control measures are implemented, whether, but nothing's out.
Nothing's been like finalized,
Correct.
but I did hear like they're going to, I think there were some measures in the bill, and I think they've taken those out and thought like it's better to have maybe a task force that takes its time and comes up with those metrics rather than putting it in the bill. It should probably, it needs study.
Sure, because it's not every school is unique, right? And each set of equipment is differently, and every ability to, it's not just inserting this into the program and you're done. So I think every municipality would be affected differently, but
It's still our reimbursement level.
that's true.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it might be exception putting a brand new building up and really you can deal with the air filtration right out of the gate.
Right. Well, there's that story to tell no matter what. You know, whatever you're going to have, it's going to be state of the art. Your filters are going to meet MERT 13 filtration. You're going to have all the opportunity. You're going to have an opportunity to discharge the air that's in the building every night. You could program it so your equipment just sucks all the air out and fills it back up with fresh air. You could do it once a week. You could do it, you know. So the equipment and the building management system will have the ability to do that for you when you're.
I think down the road we do another newsletter. We can go a little more into minutia about, you know, safety and security, which are always the top of parents.
Health, safety,
and
health,
COVID.
health,
Yeah, you know what do we have? Are we talking about how the buildings breathe, security systems and stuff? I don't think with this issue, it's just saying where we are going forward on this matter.
Yeah. I'm good with content on this. Yeah, I think these people.
So I'll add in a little bit more about kind of a breakdown of the budget for the referendum and what the overall was, you know, for the high school, for the high school and the 900 wing, and then break out construction costs, because then that's what we start talking about.
Here, we can very quickly.
Yeah, segue, right?
Yeah.
And Kat might want to put in contingency fund, what it is, how's that used, you know, because people are always confused, is that extra money that comes back to us, or is that money going to be used?
We have, Kat, in one of those presentations we did pre-rec.
Yeah, I mean, we did it.
Yeah, what our contingency was.
Yeah, well, there's a line item for like 5 items, and then there's a little description after each
I
one
remember that.
we could probably pull back.
Yeah, I think just explain a little bit more.
Is that reinvent, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised people say, was that money we return back, or is that money you're actually going to use?
The answer's hopefully both. Spend most and give a little bit back at the end, yeah.
And then I just highlighted the dollars, because I just want to double check those. They're accurate. So, but I think this will answer a lot of questions that the community has been, you know, asking or sending emails or discussing on social media. And I think this will give them a point of reference.
And money is always a point of reference.
Yeah.
Does it affect my taxes?
I don't think we're there yet, but I know early on, pre-referendum, some people in the community were talking about you know, whether it's parents or people involved in industry, is there any plan to pursue maybe corporate money or sponsorships or, you know, for a lab? Or I would hate to think, oh, it's kind of too late now to do that, and like, how does that fit in? And have other communities had success with that? Yeah, grants or
CJ and I have talked about that, and you know how we would approach it, but probably, you know, as construction's going on, doing outreach and being able to show people progress.
they can
and
see what it might look
yeah,
like and where they might
excitement
fit
once,
in.
you know, we start to build the new high school. So, you know, I know we've talked about like how we would structure that, you know, and reach out to certain,
Like somebody can sponsor the gym or something like that. kind of
right, or
thinking,
like,
Like a health
especially,
lab or like a-
you know, depending on like what this company is focused
Yes.
on, that then
Sure.
that pathway
Right.
that they are looking for employees, they could potentially, you know, sponsor that.
Whether it was right,
Or
robotics or
that,
IT,
you know, that type of
I
thing.
don't know what we did with engineering.
Yes, exactly along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna apply for STEM and makerspace, easy to
Right,
raise money
right.
from
robotics,
corporations, say,
yeah.
that's what we're STEAM, I don't know. if there's
Culinary,
something-
you know, just so many different things that, you know, yeah, groups within our town would potentially be interested in, and,
Sure.
yeah, like to have their name
Mhm.
associated.
That could be after too, because I know,
Right.
our STEM levels, so a local company.
Yeah.
Donated a ton of money and
Right.
years in the making.
Yeah, I guess if you know about it early enough, though, then you can kind of plan for, oh, you know, we can do this instead of this.
Yeah,
And
no,
cost savings.
A
right.
little bit of a cushion or other things that you didn't think you could afford in your budget then.
You already have so much community outreach already from the high school, I'm sure.
Right.
Easily tap into that. You know, we're seeing some of the stuff in Hartford, some of the poor districts, say poor urban districts, where the hospitals and the big health facilities are going in, sponsoring stuff.
Right, right,
Which we might be, you know, people aren't going to healthcare. And it's
exactly,
going to be the fastest, biggest growing industry in the United States for the next 10 years.
right. So I think that, I would think that different.
So you got UConn over here right now.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe Rose Ponce too with her connections.
Or what you could also do is use those grants, like, we also have, I know you guys have the Perkins grants, but I use that to buy the equipment. So like the facilities there, but these companies donate, you know, their funds, and we buy the big laser cutter, right? We buy this 3D printer, stuff that we wouldn't be using with this funds, but that would help really just fill up all the technologies, equipment, and the culinary, like, you know,
Right,
would
right.
buy the commercial refrigerator, commercial stuff, and all that. Yeah. But that is a great idea.
Well, I'm sure we have corporations that would be willing to do that. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, as we go through the process, maybe even, you know, whether it's this group or another group, really focus in on that would be helpful.
Maybe a subcommittee
And
or.
Rose would be a resource.
Yeah, Rose would be a good person. Or do you guys have a CT advisor group? So we do, that would be a great
Right,
resource for.
yeah, you're right.
That's because that's what we do.
What
is
does
we
that
use
stand for?
A career in technical education. So any family consumer science, which is culinary, business, and tech and engineering.
Everything out
It's
there,
the
reaching out in the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it a parent? What is this?
Part of the Perkins grant, so it's a federal grant that comes from the state.
Yeah.
And then you can use those to only pay for those 3 areas.
Who like manages who executed that? Is it like a school?
I don't know
Community
who's
based?
in charge of.
Devin, he was just texting me to say he couldn't find it. Oh, okay, for Devin team. Thank you.
There's an advisory group and.
I'm just trying to figure out like if something like this is what kind of organ, like who does it, who does that? So,
Right.
is it a community-based organization? Is it something we take on?
Mm-hmm.
No, we probably take on.
Well, I can talk, I do it in my school district.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you need, Ken, on that piece?
No,
I know this will be obviously based on the post of this. Number 2 will happen based on our results today.
We'll post it once the is all squared away with the next round of approvals, so, and it'll be a full package.
Can you send us a link on it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else on website? That was the big conversation.
Should we mention anything about, I know the surveys are going out for 1920.
Surveys are in.
Oh, they're in.
Mhm.
Did you do the analysis yet on that?
Yes. Yep, I can send you the link to that. It's on our town website.
What was the read on it?
So the read on it is there was, I would say, a pretty significant amount of support for the 1928 building. It was bordering on about the high 70% support for that. And then we had discussed potentially retaining additional portions of the building for recreation space, stuff like that. And that had, I believe it was in the high 50% support. So the town council met last night and they approved a statement of needs for a potential 1928 building committee. They approved the ad hoc committee's recommendation, which is to explore some options and kind of then get back to the, kind of like our building committee process, look at some options, go back to the town council, then they'll move them forward. So the idea is building committee for that would likely be charged at either the next town council meeting or the following one.
Did you get a demographic profile of the age group? Was
Yes.
it older, young? Who had more of the interest in 28 building? Was it people who are younger age or kids in school?
I have it
I don't want to go into
off
your
the
details.
top of
I'm
my
just
head.
curious. Does it match up with our survey?
It
That's why I want to
matches-
look at it.
I'll send it to you so you can do kind of like a cross tabulation
Yeah, I
on
want
that.
to cross tab it and see.
We did have the data because this company did a survey for the high school committee in 2018.
Right.
So they were able to see the breakdown of respondents that year versus this one, and they were very, very similar.
What did you get back?
We got 997 surveys back.
Not too bad, close to what we got. We got about 12.
Yeah, they said it was the company that did it for us, Center for Research and Public Policy. They said on a national level, when they do national polls, they look to get about 1,000 responses. So they were very impressed with the Farmington number coming in, almost similar to what they get for national. So they thought it was a good snapshot.
77.8%. 1928.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And 56.9%. Retaining 52, 64, and 78.
In certain sections of the older building, like the old gym or stuff like that.
Yeah, so
Usually auditorium, usually what they're interested in.
well, so when the town, this ad hoc committee that was set up by the town council kind of looked around with stakeholders and see what the needs of the town were, gym space was one of the things that came up pretty frequently. So they kind of look at the four options that a potential 1928 committee would look at is one, the 1928 as a standalone building and renovating that. Two would be renovating the 1928 and retaining basically that square with the two gyms, the auditorium for potential future uses, because the gym space could be utilized almost immediately. Then you would renovate the 1928. Option three would be to get a range of cost estimates for those spaces to renovate, because down the road, you might want to, put some money into the auditorium or convert that to storage space or a meeting space or something. So we wanted to kind of see what that true cost and do some capital planning for that. So we have a bigger picture. And then because you're retaining more buildings, there would be a potential to see if a ball field would fit where the existing town hall is. So the potential to get a cost estimate for demolition of town hall and construction of ball field. So just really looking at all the options and then going back to town council.
To be determined.
Yes.
What would the makeup of the building committee for this be? Would it be a representative from this building?
That's what we are hoping. That's what we proposed. Yeah, there's definitely, although the two projects are separate, they do have to communicate with one another and one impacts the other. So we do think it's important that this committee is represented.
A lot of these old buildings, towns I know where they take the old high school, whatever, usually turn into apartments or become part of with other town departments. It's usually usually hand it over.
Yeah, it's the need that's listed in the statement of needs is that gym space, office space for town hall departments, storage, community use, all of those things.
When they say storage, do they mean equipment or records?
Records mostly.
Is there a way to do that digitized now, or
We have
storage?
to, by records retention law, hold on to hard copies of the documents, some forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a storage facility.
But it's true, yeah.
We have a storage facility
Yes.
up at the water treatment
Right.
plant.
I
And
remember
it's like
hearing
rapidly filling up, just because we have to retain, so we have digital copies of everything, but we have to have the physical copy.
There's actually more paper than ever.
Do you
The
always
digital
have
world's
to-
actually creating more paper.
Mostly financial.
Some have records retention where after X years, you can,
Right,
we have to
right,
petition
like
the
your
state, they
personal-
have to approve it, and then you can destroy the documents, but.
Does it always have to be on-site or within your, what am I trying to say?
It doesn't have to. When we were building the treatment plant, we had it in a storage facility, but then when we get a freedom of information request, we then have to go get it. So it is easy to have it in a system that's cataloged, that you're easy to access. But so like during the treatment plant, when we would get records requests, we would just have to let them know, yeah, we can only get to this facility on this day, and then we have to, so it, it just adds to that burden.
Aren't there companies where you request it though and they get it to you, like that's their business? I don't know, if that's done.
There are paper storage.
To think
centers.
that we're
There are
gonna have
document
like
storage
this
centers.
real estate, this
Corporations.
Yeah.
Is info shredders, they have huge warehouses. That's where corporations.
And that's what they do, that's what they specialize in, so they can get to it like this. I'm thinking more of like the healthcare,
Yeah, electronic health
Yeah.
records, yeah, I know.
like a huge difference.
You charge $10 a sheet, and have to screw just one.
Business. All right, so website's good. And we won't let it change. Okay, good. All right, so we also have newsletter update, Ira.
Yeah. So, part of the, or you didn't have this. Talking about storage. The one we did in the fall, we just took a 4-pager, I'll pass it around. So basically, we have a statement, maybe we can write it, and whatever, it's a site map's been changed around, Mark, or
Just a better record.
just
Yeah.
better representation, what's going on. And if it's even bigger, we have to have some sort of key on it, so we can explain where things are on here, so make it easier to do it.
Can't remember what.
And the inside, we had a Q&A.
We don't have to include anything with the parking lot or none of that,
temporary.
none of that image.
You guys want to see?
We've come a long way. It's very exciting. So yeah, we definitely had, the last one we approved.
And so
Looks a lot different now.
are the schematics pretty much designed outside, pretty much going to hold up, or we're not sure?
Based on where we are.
What is this newsletter be about? Like, what it's gonna look like inside?
I was going to wait for fall time for it.
Okay.
When you have the groundbreaking, I thought it would be better at that point to talk about it.
We've been showing these
This
pictures for
plan,
some
yeah.
I mean, but that is in such flux, I don't even know if you could.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I don't know if you could do a rendering of the site at this point, because it's in.
No, I don't think we need to show that. Because I think it's just,
probably lay off
what's the layout look like? And here's the old nice, get them still acclimated. And my recommendation for the 2 newsletters, not just get into what's going to happen inside. By then, I assume the design and all the floor plans will be done, because they're not done yet. And so they're just,
That's in flux too, technically.
Yeah,
we were
you're
just
right,
talking
because
about
of value engineering.
Right.
But there might be some places we could highlight, like the gymnasium, or, I just want, or the cafeteria, I don't know, it's like, we want to inspire people, get people excited about, I know when I see those things, that's what I'm most excited about, like, oh my gosh, our students are going to be in this facility, this is just, incredible. And I was recently interviewed for a documentary, and
Yeah.
that's what I talked about, and how inspiring the school will be for our students, and will inspire creativity and motivation, and you know what I mean, those types of things. And but I've been able to see the inside in, you know, a preliminary type of thing, but it was like amazing to see it.
Yeah, the plan I suggested, Kathleen, was kind of saying, here's what the immediate future next 6 months. So every newsletter, then what's going on.
Like what?
But
Okay.
I think, remember the big poster one we did, and we had all those things?
Yeah.
That's when we can break out more specifically when it's, you know, more detailed.
Okay.
Then I think you're absolutely right. You want to get people jazzed up and saying, here's what's going to happen in this space. And not going on over here. Here's what the maker space. Here's the gym, the quality, you know, everything we get in breakout. So I would refer back to that large one we did, because that had the biggest impact from our post. We were talking to people afterwards when they got the lawn sign, I call it, and saying, here's, we get everyone done. So they can break out the spaces.
Yeah.
Because at that point, plans will be done. Then we can talk about, you know, the programming.
Yeah.
But right now, it's, you know, letting people know, because you got a disruption in the fall time. I think that's just going to be in your staff, students, the parents. And where do I park? What do I do? You know, so it's more kind of that stuff. And once they see the fencing going up here, then they'll start asking more questions. So I thought, you know, bringing, you know, kind of phase it in, and tie it to the construction that's going on. You can say, over here, this is going to be that. And then we can even take pictures as they're building it and say, here's what's going on. And that can always go on the website pretty quickly.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to do something at the school at some point. You know, do one of these suits, like while you're in construction, like have some like other buildings that we do, like where you've got some boards up and you've got like.
I love that idea, and I would love to have it for every school, because this benefits all Farmington students.
Fantastic idea.
I would love to have in the main hallway of every school those posters up, so when parents come in, they're able to look at it and get really excited about the high school. So
Yeah,
it's just hard to, especially if, you know, as we get some of those interior things too, like that stuff is just.
See,
such a wow factor.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, there's just technology. You know, we did this in Mansfield, where you're taking the rendering, you're walking them through.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But we need the architects to give us those renderings to do a walkthrough. So here we're going over here. So actually living kind of a, you know, 3D environment. But I mean, I had that under recommendations. It involves a little more investment, but as it gets done, you're saying, here's what the space is going to look like. That really engages people. I remember we posted it at the library at the transportation center in Mansfield over at UConn, where they actually sat down, looked at the computer, and looked at it going through what the new elementary schools look like. Made a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if the architect's planning to do that more. Are they? Provide us some renderings on the inside?
Yes. So we've had a preview. We've requested some changes before we put them out. So those changes get made, then we'll.
They probably have done these kind of 3D things too.
Probably, I'm sure they have. Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk that. I mean, that's fall time. It's next winter, but it's always, I'm thinking ahead, saying, what are we going to need?
Right.
As we're doing it, then it's too late. I haven't thought about it. Want me to go through these sections quickly? So what we're going to do is just an update and the new site map on there, the latest one, and then inside is going to be a Q&A. What will Find Inside Design look like? We can, again, just generally talk about, you know, what's going to be going on, a little bit more detail, and when will the community see it. So this is a very simple question. So people say, oh, you know, I'm going to see all this stuff. What are the plan on activities for the summer and the fall? So we know we have the enabling site, so we have to explain what's going to be going on. This might be a little longer Q&A question to answer. And what's going to happen in the fall time, the anticipated groundbreaking. So if we have a date for that, that'd be great to put in here. Is that going to be possible to do? Mark and Kat?
Start the conversations, yeah.
Yeah,
The
I
date
don't
for
think we
the,
have a set date for groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking.
Just put on the calendar to say sometime September.
I think we could have fall.
I would say fall for sure. Yeah.
Well,
But I would
have
think
a
that,
month, but you know, not sure.
well, you're going to be bidding, right? So it depends on what you want to call it. they're gonna come in the summer, and there's gonna be 6 weeks of activity here. The temporary fence is gonna go up, they're gonna move a big giant pile of topsoil, they're gonna
Traffic patterns, everything.
temporary parking lot, traffic patterns, everything, and then first day of school, right, you set the stage from day one, so that kids and visitor parents, everybody that comes to school will start to get used to, that'll be the traffic pattern throughout. And then the ONG is gonna go away for a little while, because we're gonna finish up the final drawings, and then in September, we're gonna bid the documents, so we'll be out to bid in September, and groundbreaking probably September, October, so it's, you know, you want to pick a day right now, it's kind of hard to say, you know, what the groundbreaking is, and what do you want groundbreaking to look like? There'll be plenty of construction stuff that you can stage, you know, groundbreaking without a whole lot going on.
So we'll say early fall sometime.
On a hole in the ground, or
Just, so we went
really
to.
see a
It's
pile
really
there with some
symbolic,
shovels.
that's what we're doing, symbolic, it's not like. they-
Correct,
something
yeah,
we-
so I
It's
think
symbolic
you-
groundbreaking, that's all.
So I think you could start to
But could
plan
we
that.
just-
We're
date.
setting a milestone.
Yeah,
like
exactly, like,
observation.
I have a lot of
Yeah.
dirty, you know, I have a pile of dirty pool.
You don't want it to hold out, right?
Everyone gets a hard hat, and,
It
you know,
sounds,
the ONG pays for all this, never gets a hard hat, they shovel.
Yeah.
I mean,
it sounds to
you
me
know,
like
the kids sing a
October
song.
might be the way to
But see, that's what I think, that's why I asked the question.
I think September's pushing it, November could be.
So we got
31
31 people
days
we
in
talked
October.
about,
Yeah, we
I
can
think
say
we just say it
October.
could be in October,
You know,
right?
just-
As long as
okay, just-
you know.
And, you know, we'll give you the final date and make a big PR about it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then decide how you want to do the event, because it is a big launch and who the speakers are. And everything.
Yeah.
We are going to set up a subcommittee here.
Just, you know, just keep me informed of that. And then, you know, I think the most important thing to put in this, what's going to change knowing the enabling sites going up. So we put a map in here, which is different than the site plan. Saying here's the traffic pattern, here's where the new parking is going to be. Because this is going to people, they're not going to get another newsletter.
Yeah.
Because this is all going to happen when school opens.
I think it all depends on, you know, I want us to take Scott's lead on this, like, this is really his thing, right? Like, I want to make sure, like, you study that's all, right? Scott.
I mean, there's no simple solution, but there is like sort of, you know, this is the bus queuing, this is, you know, red means, so you're coming up Monteith, right? Student parking is here, student parking is here, the purple is, you know,
Not
here.
easy to read.
Right,
No.
And we
you know,
got
when it overflows, you're gonna go all the way around here, right? So.
But then the
It's really
afternoon
gonna be-
or the morning's different than the
It could
afternoon.
be different based
I know
on.
Scott's creating a plan in terms of for teachers. So that's, but this is more kind of a general.
If
you're
we
the
can do
public
something
coming-
broad enough,
We can
that
do
we're
something
not,
broad.
like, I just want to be very cautious
Our
that we're
traffic
not
guard is
overstepping.
out of the circle.
You know, like,
Yeah.
that communication needs to, I think, comes
From
from
the
Scott and his
Also,
team.
superintendent picks. I think, you know, photos of those individuals that will be on site would be helpful too on our website.
Yeah.
For parents
Sure.
and, you know, even our staff, faculty and staff are getting to know those individuals. And then,
Recognize that
you know, it
they
puts
should be there.
humanity
Yeah.
when you see their picture, it's not just that person.
It's not
You know what
this
I mean? Like, oh,
process.
that's who they are.
Coming
Yeah.
on
Right.
to them.
Yeah,
It's
we got-
people behind.
Probably what I've seen this is that you, particularly on a site like this where you still on the school site, first 2 weeks might be a little chaotic.
Yeah.
So get used to the pattern.
Yeah.
Once it settles in, this will all go away. So having that map and say when
Just
school
managing
opens,
that.
here's this general pattern, which is, you know, not gonna be parking here, this is the new, where the new high school is going. But we're putting this over, just to remind people, I'm sure that Scott's gonna take care of internal communication.
Yeah, so that, I
This is more
I know
for,
he's
this is more for
really
community.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can
and I
come-
know he
Yeah,
is,
have it.
he's
Yeah,
got
I
it
mean,
all
this
laid
is-
out.
Diagrams.
If you're coming in to visit,
Videos and all that.
so if you're coming in to visit, here's where you park.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's, that's.
yeah,
Yeah.
But you
This
could,
is
yeah,
not,
if
this
you're
is not,
like in
this
detail.
is not the
Yeah.
day-to-day stuff. It's gonna be, you know, it's gonna go on. And then, the cost estimate, Kat, I think we'll do just a shorter description in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Because that'll be on the, we're gonna send people to the website.
yeah, we could do a link to
And
it
say,
also.
we're gonna talk about it here, here's the final cost, here's what the state's giving us. And just really general, you know, we're on budget, we recognize We just need a comfortable statement saying we recognize the cost of materials and labor is all going up, inflation, but we're still spending our budget. That's the statement.
Yeah.
Has to be within it. And saying, we're not changing anything.
Not impacting educational programs.
Right.
And then the last thing was just a groundbreaking, and if anything changes timeline, we should stick it in. Thanks for correcting the voting members and non-voting members.
The only other thing I would add is you had mentioned to me in an email that we wanted to have a meeting, a Zoom meeting, or possibly a person meeting. I think we should advertise the date of that in this newsletter so that people have a hold of this.
Yeah, that was the last thing. Now that could be, and I mentioned to Meg, you can make this part of the official, but if it takes so much time just running your general.
Yeah.
Then we should break this as a separate event.
I think we probably should do it as a separate event, especially the way our timeline's running. Meetings are critical, right?
Yeah, and this should be done within a week. In other words, they get the newsletter a week before the Zoom meeting. And so what is we want to come with Q&A. This is the Q&A and taking a slide deck and presenting it.
Suggest Zoom, or now that we're like we have meetings in person.
I think we should have just make it both ways. Just have it a place where people are still afraid to come out.
Yeah.
And then and first who knows what's going to be in the internet. We assume it's going to be better, but there's still a lot of hesitancy. In Connecticut here, it's still almost 50% of the population wore a mask the rest of the year.
Yeah. So I would say if we're aiming to get this out and give notice by the end of May, at our next meeting, which is in a couple of weeks, if we can have a draft that should be to approve, then we can get it out. And then we're like,
first we can I would do it before school, let's say.
I think the first we can do would be pretty cool, because that's about a year since it passed.
Yeah,
It's almost like a year.
Yeah, we can celebrate it.
Just.
It's a Friday.
We've made it.
Yeah.
We've made it, folks.
Yeah, I think that'd be a cool, like, here's a year update.
A lot of them,
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'd like to plan on this newsletter going out the third or fourth week in May.
Well, I would say we meet again in 2 weeks before this next meeting. So what is it, the 27th? May 11th is our next meeting. About this communication subcommittee meeting, we can approve the draft. We can get it to the post office. It'll hit mailboxes end of 20th, beginning of the week of the 23rd. And then that's good.
Make it a week later.
Yeah.
Because it'll be in the newsletter.
Yeah, I just want to give people notice, this is a good way to hit all households, everybody has an opportunity to attend, that way we get.
So they can go to the Zoom meeting and choose
Yeah.
it Thursday.
How you doing?
What we do is at the high school auditorium.
Yeah.
I think we should try to do the high school auditorium, have them come up here.
What date?
We haven't determined it, they'll probably do the first, we could do first or second week.
That's great, as long as if it's after grad.
Yeah, we will not do
Yeah,
that.
we're not.
We'll do it
No, we don't want to.
Just because everyone should, right? Those are things that.
So let's shoot for May 11th, Kat,
Yep,
for this thing to be approved.
we also have our newsletter, which goes out to everyone in July. So we should think about what, not a repeat, but what is the next thing we want to get out.
Kind of like we did on the first one, just to highlight on the front page.
Yeah.
And go to this website, look at the newsletter.
Yeah. All of that.
And I saw this in our town newsletter as well.
Okay.
Thing at the bottom. I don't know what happened to that. July. All right.
I think anything else.
That's good. All right.
Communication.
Yeah. Content. Sure, yeah.
You can stay there for the party.
Why not?
Wendy, can I get a motion to adjourn? I will second. I'm in favor. All right, so we will adjourn at 4:56.